Okay guys, so let's go ahead and get started with the things you'll need. You're going to need your violin and also your shoulder rest if you have one, you can use it so that it's comfortable on you. Your bow if you use it yet, and your rosin. Okay, so let's go over some violin basics really quickly. So first of all, let's get on to the most important thing, the most basic thing that everyone should know if you're going to play the violin or going to learn how to play the violin. The most basic thing that everyone should know is how to hold the violin properly. And I know this may sound really simple, but a lot of people don't know how to do that. I mean, it's really easy to think that you would just grab the violin, put it underneath your chin, and then just start playing with your bow, but this is not the right way to hold your violin. There's actually a specific way that you need to hold it, and really quickly I'm going to go over the parts that are found on the violin. So first of all, there's this little part at the bottom, which is called the chin rest, and it's self-explanatory. This is the part that you would put underneath your chin. Then you have the tail piece of the violin, where you will find the fine tuners, which you use to tune the strings and make them sound different. Then you have the bridge of the violin, which basically gives it support for the strings. Then you have the fingerboard, and then the neck of the violin up here, which is still a part of the fingerboard, and this is where you would put your fingers to create notes. And then you have the pegs, which also are tuners, which tune the strings even more, and then the scroll of the violin, which is the very top of it. So let's get on to how to hold it. Your hand right here, your left arm, you would place it on the body of the violin, and you see this chin rest right there. You would basically twist your arm around so that it's facing you, and then you would raise up your chin and then slide the violin underneath so that your chin is resting on the violin. You're not going to be like this. You're not going to be like that. That is not right. You're not going to be directly on it. Your head is going to be slightly tilted a little bit, and your chin is going to be on the chin rest right there. Make sure that your posture is good, and then move your fingers onto the fingerboard, and then place your fingers on there. And then your wrist cannot be laying down on the violin like that. It cannot be up against it. That's not how you're supposed to hold it. Your wrist should be kind of vertical and ready to place your fingers on the violin. You would keep your hand there for support, because if you let go, the violin falls. But then here's another thing. Usually, this is a violin accessory that you can get, which does not come with the violin, but you can get a shoulder rest, which I use every single time I go to play the violin. Everybody uses it. I've had this for 6 years, ever since I first got my violin. And what this does is you place it on your violin, place it on your violin at the very bottom, hook it onto it like that. So now, as you can see, it's much easier to hold this up. I don't even have to use any hands to hold it up, when before it would just fall off without the shoulder rest. So I definitely recommend to get a shoulder rest so that it's really easy and more comfortable to play the violin. I don't even have to hold it, and I can just take my bow in my right hand and then just bow. Okay, so you should get a shoulder rest, or even if you don't have a shoulder rest for now, there is other substitutes that you can use. You can use little cloths that are cushioned and just put it under there, and they work the same way, just a little bit harder to keep up. But what the shoulder rest does is basically protects your shoulder from getting injuries or little scratches, because surprisingly the violin does leave marks on your skin because you're pressing so hard. But the shoulder rest gives you cushion, so if you don't have a shoulder rest, you can use little cloths or sponges with string and literally attach your violin there so that it works as a shoulder rest. But another important thing while playing the violin is your posture. So your posture is how you sit, how your shoulders looked. You cannot be slumped. You cannot be slumped while playing the violin, because let me show you how it looks. So I'm just going to place the violin under my chin. It's like all the way down there. I can't really play. It's uncomfortable. You cannot have bad posture while playing the violin, because it also alters the way you play and how quality of sound you play is. So your violin cannot be drooping down there. That is not the right way to hold it. That is not the right way to play. You have to have good posture. You have to raise your shoulders up, bring them back, and sit straight up, and then go ahead and place your violin. Your violin should be up here. It should not be like this. You cannot be playing like this. You cannot have your violin facing downward. It has to be up here, elevated with the rest of your body, how your posture is, and that is the correct way to do it. This makes your playing sound a lot better, and it's the correct way to hold it so that you get the best sound out of it and you learn the right way. Make sure your violin is up. Make sure your wrist, another important thing while you're holding the violin is make sure that your wrist is not stuck to the violin like this. This is not the right way to hold it. Your wrist should be kind of vertical like that, and your violin should be up, and this makes it a lot easier to place your fingers on the violin. So that's super important. Posture is a really important thing when it comes to holding your violin and when it comes to playing. So make sure that you have good posture, make sure that your shoulders are up, make sure that your back is straight. You cannot be arching your back and slumping, you cannot do that. Okay, so one final thing in regards to holding your violin is for left-handed people. You may be asking, what if I'm left-handed? Do I need a different type of violin to be able to play or learn the violin? Do I need one with a chin rest on the other side with strings flipped over? I'm here to tell you that you do not need a different type of violin if you are left-handed, because I am left-handed myself and I use a regular violin with a chin rest on the right side, which is made for right-handed people, which is most people. But you do not need a left-handed violin, which the only difference between a left-handed violin and the right-handed violin is that the chin rest is actually on the right side instead of the left. You would get your violin like this and put the chin rest up here, and you would have your chin right there. And instead of holding your bow with your right hand, you would hold your bow with your left hand, and that is how you would bow. So you would hold it like that, which I can't even hold it because I haven't practiced and I don't know how to hold it with my left, but that would be the difference. And then the strings would be actually flipped, so like a mirror image. Instead of the G string being on this side, it would actually be on the right side. So you can actually find violins that are for left-handed people, but you do not need a left-handed violin to be able to know or learn how to play the violin, because as I said before, I am left-handed and I learned perfectly fine with a right-handed violin. So you do not need a left-handed violin to learn how to play it. Because yeah, I asked my teacher, my orchestra teacher myself, Miss Teacher, do I need a different type of violin since I am left-handed? Will it be harder for me to play? And she said, no, it will not be harder for you to play. You just learn and you'll get it. I mean, it's totally normal. It really is just how you learn it. I mean, if you learn it for the first time, it's basically going to be the same exact thing. I mean, the violin isn't really that easy of an instrument to play. Like anything, it takes practice and just takes time to get used to. Of course, how you hold it, how your posture should be, how you hold the violin up, making sure that it stays up there. Everything just takes practice and it just takes time. So that is how to hold your violin. And let's go on to the next thing. For those of you that want to use your bow or that are going to attempt to use your bow, I'm just want to give you a quick little tip on how to hold your bow so that maybe it isn't as hard for you. You're probably not going to get this on the first try because I didn't get it on the first try when they were teaching me how to play the violin. But this is how you hold the violin. So you basically hold the stick. We practice with wooden dowels. You can practice with a pencil or anything. But basically, how you hold the violin bow so that it's not uncomfortable. I mean, it's going to be uncomfortable at first, but this is how you hold it. You basically hook your thumb into the opening right in between your bow right there. And then you put your index finger and like lay it right there. And then your other fingers go kind of placed on there, like wrapping around the bow stick. And your pinky is like standing up on the tip. So this is how it's supposed to look. Your hand's supposed to look like this. Your index finger is laying on the bow. This is what gives you like force on the bow. This is what allows you to press down. Look. That sounds bad, but this index finger is what does all the work. Let me remove it. Look. I can't really press down, but then I add my index finger. This is what's balancing the thing. It sounds louder. So this is how you hold the violin bow. You basically put your index finger right there laid down. These fingers are kind of just wrapped around these two middle fingers. And then the pinky is standing up at the very end. And your thumb is in between right here. It's like hooked in between the bow. So it looks like that, like that. First of all, if you're going to use your bow needs this thing called rosin, because otherwise your bow is going to be gliding over the violin without making sound. So this thing called rosin, kind of black, comes in assorted colors. It comes in this little wooden thing most of the time, and you just glide it on your bow to give it grip so that your violin makes sound when you when you glide it over the violin. This is what gives the violin grip and makes the strings vibrate. Okay, so in regards to your bow, I'm going to show you how to tighten your bow, how it's supposed to look. So here's the bow. It's really long. It's made up of horsehair. This is all horsehair that's been stretched out. It's all horsehair that is used as the bow to bow on your violin strings. And this is what you put rosin on. They look like that. Be really gentle with it because, I mean, the horsehairs can come off really easily. So how you tighten your bow is you use this little knob down here, which you use to twist. You turn it, and the bow becomes tighter. So right now I'm making it tight. As you can see, this is the wrong way to have your violin bow tightened. It is not supposed to be overly tight like this. Maybe you guys can't notice, but how I know that this violin bow is tight is that the bow hair is super, super, super straight. It's really stiff. And also the violin bow is even arching in the opposite direction. It is super straight. Your violin bow is not supposed to look like this. It is almost arching upwards. And this is how it's super tight. This is not good for your violin bow. It can actually damage it and damage the horsehair, maybe cause it to come off. Your violin bow is not supposed to be this tight. You need to loosen it a bit. How you loosen it is you turn this little twist, this little thing right here, and you'll see the difference. I'm going to loosen it. Can you see the difference? This is a little bit too loose, but as you can see, now the bow is not arched upwards. It has like a little dip right here, and that is good because that means that your violin bow is loose and your horsehair is relaxed. It's not tightened and there's not a lot of tension in your bow. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to find good in between. So your bow cannot be this loose like this because then, I mean, it's not going to play on your violin. The bow hair is almost stuck to the bow itself. So when you tighten your violin bow, it's supposed to be quite a bit of space between the bow and the horsehair itself. So you're supposed to at least have like a finger's width between there. And then your bow is not supposed to be super stiff. The stick is not supposed to be super straight. As you can see, this one is not completely straight. There's like a little dip right there. That is good for your bow. It's not super tight and it's not super loose. This is perfect for your violin. And it's perfect for the bow, so you can play. So make sure that your violin bow is not super tight. Have like a finger width in between. And this is perfect. This goes along with taking care of your violin is how to put your bow away. Make sure that it lasts a long time. Every time you go to put your violin bow away in your violin case or anywhere, you need to make sure that you loosen your bow. So how you do that is you twist the little bottom the way that it's supposed to be loosening and loosen it all the way so that there is no tension in the horsehair, because if there's tension in the horsehair when you put it away, they're going to get weared away and maybe the bow's going to get damaged and you're going to have to get a new bow quicker. So every time you go to put your violin away, make sure you loosen your bow hair and make sure that it is not tight so that it is relaxed and ready to use the next time. And then the next thing you need to do, the most important thing out of everything, is make sure your violin is in tune. And here are the strings really quick. So the violin has 4 strings. It has the G string, which is the thickest string, the lowest sounding string, and it sounds like this. This is the string G. Then the next string right beside it is D. It sounds like this. And then the next string right beside that is A, and it sounds like this. And then the highest sounding string, the skinniest string on the violin, is E. So it's G, D, A, E. And this is how they're supposed to sound when it's in tune and ready to play. Okay. So here's how you tune your violin. I'm going to put in a link in the description box below to many violin tuners that you can download in the App Store. And what they do is that they listen to your violin while you're playing it, and it tells you if your violin strings are in tune or not. So I'm going to put a link in the description box below to free apps that you can download to tune your own violin. And how you tune your violin is you see these little knobs down here? Those are called fine tuners, and you use those to adjust the pitch on your string. So when you turn these, it gets out of tune and in tune. What that means, okay, so let's say I'm gonna tune my violin. I go right here and twist a little knob to change the pitch or the way the string sounds. I'm gonna test it out with the A string right here. I'm gonna move the knob and make the string sound higher. So I'm gonna twist it to the right, okay? I'm gonna twist it to the right. So if you didn't notice, I changed the pitch of the violin and now it sounds like this. That does not sound right, so I'm going to show you guys how this is going to get into an in-tune string. So what you do now is the string is sharp, and what sharp means is that the note is too high. So I need to bring it down to its original lower pitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this little tuner to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up and go checking the string as I move it so that I can hear how it's changing. Okay, so you tune your string. When it's slightly out of tune, you use these little knobs down here called the fine tuners, and that's for little details when your violin is just a little bit out of tune with the string. But when you turn these all the way, there's a certain point where you can't turn these down anymore, and they get to the highest point that you can turn them, and that's when you use these up top. And what these are called the pegs of the violin, which are the same thing that they're called in guitars and other stringed instruments. But these are called the pegs, and these are for huge fixes, like when your string is really out of tune and it is really loose. Then you use these up top, and how you use these is you press down so that it doesn't come off, and then you push on it and turn it so that the string tightens or loosens. And that is for major changes when it is really out of tune. So go ahead and tune your violin. Maybe if you have a tuner or with an app in the description, you can buy tuners that you can attach to your violin online, and you can tune it like that, or you can tune it by ear, just listening to the note. And I put some apps in the description box below that you can use to tune your violin for free. And here's how the violin should sound when it is in tune. Okay, another tip for beginners. This is a step-by-step tutorial, so I'll be showing you everything, where to put your fingers and where the notes are supposed to go. But another tip for beginners, if you're just learning how to play the violin, I definitely recommend getting tapes on your violin, like the one right here. I have one right now. And what the tapes do is they show you where to put your fingers on the violin, and they make it a lot easier to learn. So go ahead and put tapes on your violin so that you know where to put your fingers each time. And I'm pretty sure you can find these at craft stores or at your local violin shop, and I'm pretty sure they will do it for free, I think. And they will put your tapes on, or you can use stickers even to mark where you will put your fingers and where the different notes are. Okay, so the last thing is how to take care of your violin and how to clean it to make sure that everything is clean and nice. So what you need to do is after every time that you play the violin using your bow, or really any time you play your violin, you need to clean your violin. Make sure that nothing is dirty, because actually what happens is that the rosin from the violin bow that you rub against the bow, it actually leaves residue on the strings, and it makes the fingerboard, it leaves all the dust from the rosin gets onto the fingerboard, this black part right there, and it makes it all white, which you can't see on my violin right now because it's clean. But every time after you play your violin, you need to clean your violin. That's why I recommend having a cleaning cloth or a rag so that you can clean your violin after every play. So you clean your violin like that, and you rub the strings, make sure that there's no residue stuck on it, which is usually white. You want to clean it, make sure that there's nothing stuck on it. Clean the fingerboard, make sure the rag goes in between underneath the strings, and rub it there so that everything is nice and clean. And this will make sure your violin lasts a lot longer, if you don't clean your violin, the strings could get a little bit damaged since all the muck and residue would stack up and accumulate, and then you would probably have to get new strings if they were too dirty. So make sure that you clean your violin. Okay, so that was violin basics for any beginners and anybody who wants to play the violin. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye!